Have you ever noticed how, just when you're finally close to peace, someone shows up with another demand? Why does it always feel like you're the one everyone leans on, while your own energy quietly disappears? If you're tired of being the silent fixer for everyone else, this is the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. You're on your way to something important, maybe a goal, a moment of rest, or even just a quiet evening. But right as that peace comes into view, people start pulling at you. Requests, expectations, demands. Sometimes it's family, sometimes friends, or even strangers. And they all seem to want the same thing. You, your time, your energy, your calm. Let's be honest. Have you ever felt like the dependable one? The person who's always there, always says yes, always helps, while inside, you're slowly crumbling under the weight of it all. If that sounds familiar, then what comes next is for you. Because in this video, we're diving into 5 things you should never allow others to take from you. And no, we're not just talking about money or possessions. These are deeper drains, the kind that wear down your spirit and leave you feeling hollow inside. Here's the truth. You weren't born to live your whole life in sacrifice mode. You're not here just to carry everyone else's weight while your own needs are ignored. This is your life, and that means you deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve fulfillment, the kind you've worked hard to build. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear might be exactly the reminder your soul has been waiting for. Let's start with the first and most common mistake. Number 1. Never take on responsibilities that aren't yours. As we go through life, it's easy to slip into the habit of saying yes too often. It might begin with something small, a quick favor for a family member, or helping out a friend with something you didn't plan for. But slowly, that little favor grows into a huge obligation. Before you know it, you're not just helping, you've become the one holding the entire thing together. And the more you give, the heavier it gets. The harder it becomes to say no. But remember this, even the strongest rope will snap if you keep pulling it too tightly. I know this feeling all too well. I've been that rope stretched beyond its limits by duties that were never mine to begin with. I'll never forget the time a relative asked me to help plan a surprise birthday party for their child. At first, I was happy to help, maybe pick a gift or toss out a few fun ideas, but then came more texts, more calls, more small tasks. Suddenly, I was in charge of everything: booking the venue, planning the food, making the guest list, even managing the timeline down to the minute. And my relative, they barely did anything, always saying, "You're just better at this than I am." When the party finally happened, I was completely drained. And to top it off, they took all the credit. When I finally spoke up about how overwhelmed I felt, they brushed it off. "You're being too sensitive. It was just one day." That moment hit me hard. And it taught me something I'll never forget. Helping others should never come at the cost of your own well-being. There's a huge difference between being supportive and sacrificing your peace. It was never my job to manage the entire event, especially when the people involved weren't even trying to contribute. Stoicism makes this boundary crystal clear. True peace doesn't come from pleasing others or carrying their load. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. When I started to embrace that truth, I realized that saying no wasn't selfish, it was a form of self-respect. I had the power to decide where my time, my energy, and my focus should go. And that power, it was mine to protect. So if you're facing a similar situation, ask yourself, is this really mine to carry? If the answer is no, then have the strength to step back. You don't have to solve everyone else's problems. You're allowed to choose your own peace, and sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to say no. Just as we ended before learning. To say no is how you reclaim your time, energy, and emotional space. Now let's take that principle one step further into an area that's just as personal, and often even harder to protect: your financial well-being. Number 2, don't let others take your money and financial stability. Imagine this. It's early morning. Sunlight slips gently through your curtains. You've got a warm cup of coffee in hand. And for once, there's stillness, peace. Everything feels calm. Then suddenly ring. The phone buzzes. You check the name, a familiar voice maybe. Your child, a cousin, or an old friend. You answer, expecting a lighthearted chat. But instead, you're hit with urgency. Can I borrow some money? Just this once. That phrase, just this once, has a way of creeping in and staying longer than welcome. It's rarely ever just once. And with each repeated ask, the quiet calm you had begins to unravel, piece by piece. This is exactly what happened to my friend David. David had always been the reliable one, the person others turned to when they were in trouble, especially financial trouble. One day, he got a call from a longtime friend who was facing a so-called emergency. Wanting to help, David lent them money. But that was only the beginning. Next came another call, this time to fix a broken-down car. Then another, to cover a utility bill. Over time, David found himself slipping further and further into financial stress. And the worst part? The friend never repaid a single dollar. Not even a thank you. What started as a generous act soon became a drain on David's wallet, his mental peace, and eventually, his trust in that friendship. Every time his phone rang after that, he felt dread instead of warmth. Anxiety replaced peace. Sound familiar? The truth is, your money is the result of your sweat, your effort, and your discipline. It represents the time you'll never get back and the sacrifices you've made to build something stable. You are not a personal ATM. You're not a bottomless well for others to dip into at their convenience. Helping others is noble, but not when it threatens your own foundation. Real happiness doesn't come from always saying yes. It comes from living in alignment with your own values, and that includes protecting your financial integrity. Marcus Aurelius put it best: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And let's be honest, how can you think clearly or live peacefully when you're always worried about money you may never see again? Saying yes to every request, especially when it compromises your stability, is not generosity. It's self-abandonment. So what does it actually mean to protect your financial well-being? It means learning to draw a line. Not every request is your responsibility. Not every plea for help is your burden to carry. If you feel deep down that someone won't repay or won't even appreciate your support, you have every right to say no. That no isn't cold. It's not selfish. It's self-respect in action. It's a way of preserving not just your wallet, but your relationships before they turn resentful and strained. Ask yourself this: if you were in a crisis tomorrow, would the people you help today show up for you? True financial stability doesn't come from constantly giving. It comes from having the strength to stand firm, to hold your ground, and to secure your own future. And when you do that, when you maintain healthy financial boundaries, you give yourself space. Space to breathe, to plan, to rest. You protect the life you've worked so hard to build. You protect your peace. Remember, money isn't infinite. It's a powerful tool, one that helps you shape a life that reflects your values and supports your dreams. In the previous section, we explored how financial boundaries protect your peace and affirm your worth. Now, let's turn to something even more emotionally complex, something that, if left unchecked, can quietly drain your soul: family conflicts. Number 3. Don't let yourself be dragged into family conflicts. For many of us, family is supposed to be our safe haven, a place of comfort, where we find unconditional support amid the noise of the outside world. But let's be honest, sometimes, family is exactly where the chaos begins. One of the greatest disservices a family member can do is pull you into a conflict that isn't yours, a battle you never signed up for. One moment, you're enjoying your morning, the room filled with the cozy scent of coffee, a good book in your hands, wrapped in a moment of calm. Then ring the phone interrupts. A familiar voice launches into a complaint. You won't believe what Tom did again. He never listens. He's being unreasonable. Then comes the plea. You have to talk to him for me. Just like that, your peace is broken. What was once a peaceful morning turns into emotional chaos. And for what? A dispute you didn't cause, and one you can't solve. I know this scenario too well. I once got a call from my uncle, asking me to help mediate a property dispute between him and another uncle. I had no stake in it, no involvement. But I felt this internal pressure, like it was somehow my job to keep the peace in the family. So I got involved. And it quickly turned into a lose-lose situation. One side thought I was taking the other's position. The other accused me of not being assertive enough. In the end, they were both still angry with each other, and now with me. And I was left with nothing but stress, regret, and a fractured sense of closeness with both of them. That experience taught me a valuable lesson. Getting involved doesn't always bring harmony. In fact, more often than not, you become the easy target for everyone's frustrations. Stoic philosophy warns against entangling ourselves in situations beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius said it best: you don't have to have an opinion about everything. And just as importantly, you don't have to carry every burden. This wisdom applies perfectly to family disputes. You are not required to be the referee. You don't have to insert yourself into every disagreement. The solution lies in setting clear, respectful boundaries. That's not always easy, especially when guilt or family expectations come into play. But it is necessary. Peace isn't just a luxury. It's your responsibility to protect it. So, the next time someone tries to involve you in a conflict that doesn't belong to you, respond with grace but firmness. I respect both of you, but this is not my place to step in. Remind them that every person is accountable for their own actions, and that keeping the family together doesn't mean sacrificing your mental health. Before you agree to help, ask yourself, am I really willing to give up my peace, my energy, and my valuable time just to mediate a conflict that isn't mine? Because in most cases, the answer should be no. Your energy is sacred. Don't spend it on drama. Spend it on things that replenish you, quiet moments of reflection, simple joys, or the people who truly bring warmth to your life. That's how you protect your inner world from unnecessary storms. In the last part, we learned that choosing not to involve ourselves in family drama is an act of protecting our peace and honoring our inner clarity. Now let's look at something even more subtle: the pressure to change who we are just to make others happy. 4. Don't change yourself just to please others. Have you ever been hit with seemingly harmless advice like, you'd look younger if you dress differently, or why don't you try this app, everyone's using it now? At first, these suggestions might sound lighthearted, even helpful. But if you pause, there's often something hidden beneath them, a quiet pressure to change, a gentle nudge to become someone else, to mold yourself into another person's version of acceptable. Change, by itself, isn't bad. But change that comes solely from the need to be liked, accepted, or validated by others, that kind of change slowly chips away at who you are. I saw this play out in the life of a close friend, Linda. Linda is in her middle years, deeply rooted in a simple, traditional lifestyle. She's thoughtful, calm, and takes pride in her values that were shaped over decades of life experience. But as her daughter began climbing the corporate ladder, the pressure started creeping in. "Mom, you really should learn how to use this app. Why are you still doing things the old-fashioned way?" At first, Linda took those words to heart. She believed that adapting might bring her closer to her daughter, so she tried. She downloaded the apps, she changed her habits. But instead of feeling more connected, she felt more out of place, more lost. Each attempt left her more tired, more unsure. She began to wonder if the life she built, the values she held close, were somehow wrong, outdated, unworthy. What happened to Linda is something many of us can relate to. Here's the truth: growth for your own sake is empowering. But changing who you are just to meet the shifting expectations of others, that's not growth. That's surrender. Your values, your habits, your personality, they aren't outdated artifacts. They are you. They're built from the experiences you've lived, the lessons you've learned, and the wisdom you've earned. To throw them away just to gain someone's approval is to discard the very essence of who you are. Stoic philosophy reminds us of this power. While we can't always control how others perceive us, we can absolutely control how we perceive ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." It's not the external voices that define you, it's the inner voice that says, "I know who I am, and I like who I am." So when someone suggests you change, pause and ask, is this really for my growth? Or am I just trying to fit into someone else's image of me? If the answer doesn't serve your values, your goals, or your peace, have the courage to say no. This isn't about rejecting your loved ones. It's about respecting yourself. Speak gently but with clarity. Say something like, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with who I am. I don't need to become someone else to be enough." Because those who truly love you love the real you, not the version they wish you would become, not a polished mask or edited version. Just you, flaws and all. Never trade your peace, your self-respect, or your identity for approval. This is your life. You get to choose the path. And when you walk it with authenticity, you walk it with strength. Previously, we talked about the importance of staying true to yourself, of not reshaping who you are, just to win approval. Now let's take that self-respect one step further, into one of the most overlooked areas of personal well-being, your happiness. Number 5. Don't put others' happiness above your own. Let me ask you something. How many times have you set aside your own desires just to make someone else happy? How often have you sacrificed your passions, your rest, or your time simply to meet someone else's expectations? Whether it's family, close friends, or even the pressures of society, many of us have heard phrases like, "I'll be so disappointed if you don't do this," or "I really need you, I'd be upset if you said no." At first, those words might sound innocent, even loving, but behind them is a subtle emotional weight. One that asks you to put your life on pause. One that quietly says, your needs can wait. And little by little, that pressure steals more than just your time, it begins to wear away your sense of self. Let me share the story of someone who lived this struggle. Mark was the kind of person everyone relied on. When his younger brother's car broke down, Mark was there. When a coworker fell behind at work, Mark stepped up. If a friend needed help moving, Mark was the first to show up, even if it meant canceling his own weekend plans. He skipped gym sessions he once loved, missed out on gatherings with people who brought him joy. At first, he believed that being available, being helpful, that was what it meant to be a good person. But over time, something shifted. His kindness wasn't appreciated, it was expected. No one asked if he had time or if he was okay. His own happiness became invisible to those around him. He was no longer seen as someone who gave. He was simply assumed to be available. Mark didn't just feel drained. He felt empty. And here's the deeper truth. Happiness is not a currency you can spend endlessly without cost. The more you give away your joy just to meet others' expectations, the more they come to expect it. They forget that you have needs too. That you, like them, deserve rest, care, and time to do what makes you feel alive. You are not just a background character in everyone else's movie. You are not here to constantly solve, fix, or absorb what others don't want to carry. You are the author of your own life. That means you get to choose when to say yes and when to pause for yourself. You get to protect what brings you joy, what lights you up inside, what makes you feel grounded and real. Because if you don't make space for your happiness, who will? And now, having explored the 5 things you must protect from being taken by others, your time, your peace, your values, your identity, and your joy, we come to a natural close. But before we end, let's take a moment to reflect and revisit the heart of everything we've discussed. As we explored earlier, your happiness isn't something to be sacrificed, it's something to be protected. Now, let's close with the core truth that holds it all together. Your peace and joy are your responsibility. Stoic philosophy teaches us that happiness and inner peace are not rewards given by others. They're duties we must take on ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, once wrote, "A man is happy when he lives in harmony with himself." That harmony can't be found in pleasing everyone else. It doesn't live in meeting endless demands or saying yes when you want to say no. Real happiness starts when you understand that your peace, your health, and your joy matter just as much as anyone else's. Saying no is not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. It's self-respect in action. It's choosing to protect your energy so that you don't lose yourself in the process of supporting everyone else. So how do you start reclaiming that happiness? You begin by putting yourself first. Get clear on what brings you joy. What fills you with purpose? What makes your soul feel alive? It could be working on your personal dreams, spending quiet time with your thoughts, doing something creative, or simply resting without guilt. And when requests or obligations come knocking, especially the kind that drain you, don't be afraid to say no. Not out of spite, but from a place of balance. Because true love for others doesn't mean abandoning yourself. It means maintaining your own strength so you can show up with your full heart, without feeling resentful or worn out. You weren't born to live in service to other people's expectations. You were born to build a life that reflects you, your values, your voice, your vision. This is your one and only life, and you deserve to live it with peace, fulfillment, and intention. Your happiness is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and protecting it, that's one of the most powerful forms of self-respect you can practice. So, guard your peace, guard your energy, guard your joy, because they are priceless. And there you have it, 5 silent forces that drain your soul, and more importantly, how to take your power back. Life is too short to spend it weighed down by obligations that don't align with who you are. Whether it's learning to say no, drawing firm boundaries, or staying true to your values, the ability to protect your inner world is in your hands. Just imagine waking up tomorrow without the pressure to please everyone. Imagine a life where you come first, where you're surrounded by people who truly support you, where your goals reflect your true self, not who others want you to be. That's the life you deserve, one filled with clarity, balance, and peace. Now it's your turn. What's one thing you're ready to reclaim starting today? Drop it in the comments, because every powerful transformation begins with a single decision. Together, let's take back our time, our energy, and our peace, one choice at a time.